We're going to work through a mini series on hip abduction and groin stretching, strengthening through the range as well as at your end range today. So if you're joining me, make sure that you have a couple yoga blocks with you to help support. Come down to the ground, and we're going to get into a position called bear. So you're set up for bear. We want to make sure our ankles are directly below our knees and we're sitting directly on our sit bones. If you're finding that you're not able to sit up tall through your trunk and you're more in a hunched over position, I'd recommend taking a yoga block, sitting higher on the yoga block. This will free up your pelvis and allow you to sit tall and work specifically at your hip joints. First position is this bear position, like I said. So let's get into it. And we're going to try to hold in this position for at least a minute, up to 2 minutes. If you're working at home with me, feel free to pause the video for that 2-minute stretch. I want you, during the stretch, to try to put your elbows in towards your knees so you're pressing as far out as possible. If you're finding that your hands are not getting enough leverage, take your yoga block, place it in between, and lean forward, moving from your hips, almost like a hip hinge, and that will allow you to press out on your knees with your elbows, finding that end range. Good. So when I ask you to, we're going to do a series of pails and rails. The pails is going to be you trying to close your legs in towards each other, but your elbows are going to stop you. And your rails is going to be you trying to open up your legs, get lighter on your elbows, and close the gap between your knees and the floor, pulling actively closer to your end range. So find that end range if you're not already in it. Create some tension in through your midsection, and let's start that inwards push of your knees on your elbows. Start to apply that pressure inwards. Let's go 20% effort. Let's bring it up to 40, 60, 80. Now bring it up to 100%, your greatest, safest effort. Hold that effort for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now switch directions. Actively try to open up both legs, pulling those knees down towards the ground. Pull, pull, pull. Try not to move the rest of your body. All the movement is happening from the hips, opening up the groin tissue. Pull, pull, pull for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you've created more space and you have no more pressure on the elbow, see if you can hinge a little bit more forward and widen. Pull that yoga block in, and that will give you an anchor so that you stay in that new end range for another 30 seconds. Relax into that stretch. Use your breath if you find that your body is panicking a little bit. You might be accessing some new range here, so you might experience some cramps. If that is the case, slowly come out of the stretch so that the cramp resolves. Good. All right, we're going to go for another round here. And once we're done this round, we're going to go into some transition work, some isometric positions, moving from one side to the other, starting to work through rotation in the hip. All right, so second round of this push-pull drill. Let's actively try to bring those knees in towards the elbow. Bring it up to 40% effort, 60, 80, 100%, greatest, safest effort. Try to close those knees onto the elbows, bringing the knees closer to your midline for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch directions. Try to pull those legs down towards the ground. Pull, pull the knees. Try not to come down onto your tailbone. Stay tall on the sit bones for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See if you can lean more forward. Anchor those elbows in. Good. And relax. Very good. All right. So we're in our bear here. Use your hands for support. We're gonna add some transition so we groove through the rotational patterns of our hip. So I'm gonna be leading towards my left side here. So I'm actively pulling my left knee down as I pivot on that right heel. Notice I haven't moved my chest or my pelvis. Once I can't go any further, then I'm gonna let the pelvis follow, and I'm gonna square up to that lead left leg. We're gonna transition across to our other side here. Actively pull that left leg down to the ground. See if you can now lift the trail knee, right knee up to the ceiling. Once you can't go any further, point that trail foot. Open, open, open. Pelvis is gonna follow. Use your hands for support. You're back into the bear. Transition through bear. Point the toe. Left trail knee is gonna come down once you can't go any further, or you're starting to feel pressure on that knee. Now we transition across. Good, let's go one more time here. And we're gonna end facing that left side. So I'm actively pulling that right knee down. Left trail knee is gonna go up to the ceiling, pull, pull, pull. Once you max out that range, now pull that left heel through, transition on both sit bones, use arm support as needed, working with that right leg, let that right knee come down, and now we follow through. We're facing the left side here. So I'm gonna just swivel so I look a little bit more at the camera versus sideways. So you can see I'm in my 90-90 position. The reason this is called 90-90 is we have 90 degrees bent at our front leg, 90 degrees between our two legs, and 9 degrees on that trail leg. If this is a challenging position, you can't quite sit up through the sit bones, feel free to bring that trail leg a little bit more forward and bend that front leg. So we're more in this collapsed position. The goal would be to achieve this 90-90 position, sit nice and upright, nice and stacked here. Over time, hopefully you'll get to this position here. The other option to make this a little bit more regressed, again, take your yoga block. I can sit my front leg on that yoga block, and a lot of times that frees up the pelvis. Now I can sit more upright. If you're finding that your knee no longer hits the ground, take a pillow or a yoga block, fill the gap so that we're not disturbing our knee joint there and you feel supported. So this is an appropriate position as well. The third option, if you're finding this feels a little bit unstable, is I can post out my hand to the side. So I take my back out of the equation, and this is again appropriate for you to do the next few exercises in. So we're gonna try to explore a stretch on that front left butt cheek area, the glute tissue. So we wanna take a hinge. I'm gonna try to hinge forward, and I'm gonna explore. Find where you can get the best stretch on that on that front glute tissue, that buttocks. And once you find the best position for that stretch, that's where I'm gonna get you to hold that stretch. So for me, it's a little bit more in this open position here versus directly over top of my knee. I'm not feeling too much there. So I'm gonna go more towards that front shin. At home, feel free to find what works for you and then get into that hold. Again, we'd like you to try to hold these positions at least a minute up to 2 minutes. So if any time you need to pause the camera for that nice prolonged hold, feel free to do that. Staying in this position here, the next thing we're gonna do, we're right at that end range of hip external rotation at the front. We're gonna do that push-pull drill, pails and rails. So the first one is gonna be the push. I'm gonna actively try to take all the tissue that's touching the ground, and I'm gonna try to push it down towards the ground. The pull is gonna be this tissue all through here. We're gonna try to close the gap. So I'm gonna try to bring my chest down as I try to lift the front leg off the ground. Hopefully that made sense to you. We're gonna run through it together here. All right, so I'm finishing up my stretch here. We're gonna start doing that push-pull drill. So the first one, take all the tissue on that is touching the ground. We're gonna start that pails contraction. I want you to start actively trying to push your leg down into the ground. Start at 20% effort. It's Let's ramp it up to 40, 60, 80, all the way to 100% safest, greatest effort. Push the tissue and the leg down into the ground on that front leg. You should feel that butt cheek working on the front left leg. Go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now see if you can lift the front leg, the whole entire leg, both the knee and the ankle off the ground. Full effort here. You're going to probably feel this a little bit more in your groin tissue now. Lift, lift, lift. You're at end range, so not much is going to happen, and that's fine. We're strengthening the tissue right at the end range of your hip external rotation for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and now relax into that stretch. See if you can go a little bit deeper. Take a couple deep breaths there and come out. If you have time, going through a second cycle would be great. Feel free to pause the camera on this. We're going to move on to our lift offs. This is now going to be strengthening through the range. So instead of being down here where I'm at my end range, I'm going to come out of that. What's going to happen is I'm going to anchor my hands on the ground, and I'm going to see, without moving the rest of my body and only moving at my hip, can I lift that front leg off the ground? Pause for a second and then relax it down. What I don't want to see is I don't want you to come off your hands and use the rest of your body and some momentum to lift. Let's use all your leg muscles. You'll feel your groin tissue working here, strengthening in that deep end range. So let's anchor down. We're going to do 5 reps together here. Press through your hands. Don't let the rest of your body move. Only that front leg. Lift, down, lift, down. Good. Number 3, lift and down. We got 4, lift and down. And number 5, lift and down. Excellent. Really good. Okay, we're going to transition to our trail leg, do some work on hip internal rotation. So to do this, we're going to work through the pelvis. We're going to try to square our pelvis up to our trail leg. So it's going to look something like this. I'm going to try to imagine there is a book underneath my sit bone on this trail leg, and I'm going to try to squish that book. What I don't want to see is I don't want the pelvis to stay and only the rib cage move. So see if we can get the motion from down here. And once you find that, that's where we're going to pause. Ideally, we could do that with placing our hands on the ground, supporting ourselves, and not letting the front leg lift off the ground. So I'm locking this trail leg into that rotation, internal rotation. We're going to hold here for another stretch. So again, feel free to pause the camera here up to about a 2-minute stretch. And then we're going to move on to some end range options, some pails and rails, and then some end range holds. Really trying to strengthen within that last sort of 20 degrees of our end range so that we can prevent some injuries from happening. Good. All right, so let's say it's been about 2 minutes here. Our pails and rails. So the trail leg, we're going to be doing that pushing down to the ground. And then our rails is going to be trying to lift that trail leg off the ground without letting the rest of our body move. So let's run through a round of this here. Locking that pelvis back, hip into internal rotation, anchoring that hand on the ground, or both hands on the ground. Let's take our trail leg. Let's actively try to pull it down towards the ground, both at the heel as well as that knee. Pull, pull, pull down towards the ground. 20% effort. 40, 60, 80, all the way to your 100% effort, greatest, safest effort. Pull that trail leg down into the ground. Let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. rails. We're going to try to lift that entire leg off the ground. Again, you're at your end range, so not a lot's going to happen here, but you should feel it in that pocket area. Those deep hip rotators are working hard. Lift, lift, lift. If you get a cramp, that's okay. See if you can breathe your way through. Lift that trail leg off the ground for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax the contraction. Excellent. Whew. All right, last drill, we're gonna work through that end range, see how much strength we have. So the way this is gonna work is I'm still in my 90-90. I'm gonna have to post out my arm just a little bit here, and I grab hold of this leg here. From here, I'm gonna rotate. Notice that my thigh bone rotated inwards. So there's my internal rotation on my hip. Ideally, if you were strong, I would not let that foot drop. So I'm gonna let go of my hand and you're gonna see what happens. You're gonna see that I have a little bit of a strength gap between what my passive and my active strength is. So I'm here at my end range. The goal would be to fight, fight, fight. As I let go of the hand, I don't want that foot to flop down. So I'm gonna see how much strength I have in keeping that leg up in the air. We're gonna run through 3 rounds of this. All right, grab hold of your foot. Create tension through the rest of your body. Hold your hand out to the side so you support your trunk. And let go of that foot. See if you can fight. Good. Pause. And relax. Second one. Grab that foot. Rotate. Contract the body. Use everything you got. See if you can get that foot to stay exactly where it is as soon as you let go. You should feel that butt working. And relax. We got 1 more rep here. Good. Last one. Make it a good one. And relax. Whew, I'm getting tired. Okay, we got one last drill here. We're going to work through our middle split. So remember our transitions here. We have our transition from our 90-90 back into our bear. So you're gonna actively pull that front knee down. That's that left knee. Trail knee is gonna come up towards the ceiling. Max that out. And then from here, once you can't go any further, bring that foot through. You're open back into our starting bear position. From here, let those heels slide out. Perfect. So now we're in our middle splits. Remember when we were back in our bear, we wanted you to sit directly on the sit bones with a nice tall rib cage and trunk. So if you're finding this is not available for you, feel free to free up the tissue and the pelvis by sitting on a yoga block. That will allow you to sit nice and tall and take the spine out of the equation so that you're truly working through the groin and the hip. So from here, what I'd like you to do is we're gonna work this end range of the groin. We're gonna be working some hovers. So I want you to take an object and we're gonna place it on the inside of your left leg here. Now I'm a little bit elevated. I'm gonna stay in this position. Some of you might be here. If that is the case and it's hard for you to anchor down on your hands, you can take support underneath your hands so you have a nice firm surface to press into. What we don't want to see is as we lift up and do our hovers to strengthen end range groin tissue, is I don't want to see you leaning backwards. So it's going to look something like this. I'm staying nice and tall and upright. I'm pressing down through my hands and we're going to lift, come down and control. Notice I didn't just let my leg slap down. You'll feel your quad working here, and that's a good sign that you're actually doing the right thing. Then we're going to return back. So anchoring down into the ground, down and control. If you're quite advanced and you have a really good middle splits, you can take up as much slack as possible. If I were to give this to a ballerina and got her to do this drill, she'd be able to get over top of that target in this nice hip hinged position, working directly at her end range. You can tell this is too advanced for me, so not a lot is happening. So you want to work right close to your end range. This point right here is not a good use of my time. Up in here, maybe I can come a little bit in. Oh, I can barely get off the ground, so I'd have to be more upright. All right, let's do 5 of those together, and then you can switch to your other side and do the entire thing on your other side. All right, here we go. Let's do 5 together. Pressing through the hands, and we lift, down and control. Good, let's reverse and lift. There's 1 rep. We got 4 more. Lift. And back. That's 2, 3, woo, and back. Number 4, here we go. I'm getting fatigued. Last one here, make it a good one. And down. All right, you should be sweating a little bit at home. So what I would like you to do, since we mainly did our left leg there, through the drills, we want to do everything on the opposite side. So a way that you can transition here is we're going to transition through our 90-90. So I'm in my middle splits. You can use your hands for support behind. We're going to imagine there's an imaginary line on the ground. I'm going to drag those heels up and back into my bear. So let's flesh out our hips with a couple rotations into our 90-90. So we're going to move towards our right side. So from here, trail knee is becoming now our left. Come on in and we rotate. Good, let's reverse back. We'll do 1 more and then we'll end in our bear. Bring that left heel through, opening up. We transition through our bear. Right knee comes in and down. Facing the left. Last one here. Actively pull the left leg down, knee comes up. And we're back into our bear. So feel free to do the same sequence. You can pause the video, go back to the beginning, and I'd like you to do the whole thing on your right side now. Thanks for joining.